Kind words. Um, so this is more of a practical thing, returning back to the theme of the session, that is Botox, botulinum toxin rather. So Dr. Anita has already given you a primer about how we go about the theory of botulinum toxin, how it acts, what are the indications, and so before you go in for a hands-on experience of the procedure itself, it's worthwhile to know what is required before the injection, how do you prepare it, and what are the some of the precautions that you need to tell your patients. So most important thing is a cold chain maintenance for most botulinum toxin products, although the one that we are using here today, that is Xeomin, which does not require a cold chain maintenance, and that is the good thing about it. Otherwise, sometimes you do need to keep these botulinum toxin injections when they are not opened in the freezer compartment of your refrigerator. Once you've opened and reconstituted it, then you keep it at about 4 degrees centigrade. That is very important, and also instruct, because most of the times you will not be handling this directly, but some of your technician or some of your staff would be handling it. So what happens is they will keep the reconstituted drug in the freezer, they will keep the unreconstituted drug in the lower compartments of the fridge. That can cause confusion. But with newer products like Xeomin, that problem is also solved. You don't even need a cold chain maintenance prior to reconstitution, but I would suggest that once you've reconstituted it and you're keeping it for some time between successive patients, it is better to keep it at 4 degrees centigrade still, just to avoid any infection happening, because we are in a warm country and the temperature rises quite a bit in summer especially. Always note the date of vial opening. That goes for any injection or any medical procedure that you do. Another thing is when you have to dilute the powder, the injection comes in the powder form. So you dilute it with normal saline and you let the normal saline go into the vial very slowly, gradually, drop by drop. It should not just go suddenly with a jerk and hit with a jerk. Also, you should not shake the bottle. This is a little controversial because there are some papers which have come up which show that there is no difference in the efficacy of the drug whether you reconstitute it and shake it, or whether you just keep it like rotate it gently. But the manufacturer's recommendation is that you don't shake the bottle and the vial, so you just let go drop by drop normal saline into the vial, and then just maybe as a pill rolling kind of thing, keep it between two palms and then just gradually mix the contents rather than excessive shaking. Also, another thing is avoid exposure of drug to direct sunlight, which rarely happens because you are all doing the procedure in their rooms and your offices, clinics. Should always be reconstituted with normal saline and never with sterile water, and always check the dilution that you are giving before you inject the drug. So reconstitution is the powder comes in the form of 50 unit or a 100 unit vial. Depending on how many patients you are treating, depending on how much volume of drug you require, you can opt for either 50 unit or 100 unit vial. My recommendation is that for a 50 unit vial, I would suggest dilute it with 1 ml of saline. With that, you will get about 5 units in 0.1 ml. Okay. So when you have 5 units in 0.1 ml, and for most of the indications, you will see that we have to inject 2.5 units at each site. So with this kind of concentration, it gives you the best result in terms of dilution, because for 2.5 ml, 2.5 international units at each site, you will just have to inject 0.05 ml, not more than that. So that is a little concentrated form, and the drug stays there where you intend it to be. There is less chance of diffusion of the drug into the unwanted muscle, and so less chance of any post-procedural complications. There are certain contraindications. Contraindications are pregnancy or active nursing. It's still not recommended for that. Neuromuscular disorders are a relative contraindications. There have been cases where people have reported respiratory disturbance after injecting large dose of botulinum toxin in a patient who had myasthenia gravis. So it is still not recommended to be used in those cases. So although it's not an absolute contraindication, but still I would suggest that you better be careful and elicit a thorough history and examine the patient properly so that there is no underlying myasthenia or any other neuromuscular disorder which goes undetected in your patients where you are injecting, just to avoid any problem subsequently. And then there are some medications which also are known to potentiate the effects of the botulinum toxin, and these should not be used concomitantly, like aminoglycosides, tetracyclines, polymyxins, penicillamine. So they somehow can increase the effect of your botulinum toxin injection. So be careful and ask the history for any of these drugs. Obviously, if you have any allergy or any infection at the site of injection in the periocular area, then it is better to avoid the injections till the time allergy is resolved. Many patients come for injection and they are somehow on brimonidine or one of these anti-glaucoma drugs we commonly use, and you see they have some amount of allergy in the eyelids, periocular skin. Better to switch them to a safer anti-glaucoma medication. Give them some topical steroid ointment so that the allergy goes away, and then only perform your procedure. Don't be in a rush. And there has been a history, or there have been few papers which have reported that herpes zoster reactivation has occurred after injection of botulinum toxin. So better to ask history of zoster also, and just counsel the patient that there is a remote possibility, although it's very, very rare, but there is a remote possibility of zoster reactivation too. Injection technique, you will see subsequently, Dr. Vikas would be showing the technique of injection. And so some of the post-procedure instructions once the injection has been done is that you avoid exposure to extreme heat or cold. Advise the patient to do that, because in our country the temperatures can go up to 40, 45, 41 degrees also in peak summers. So it's better to advise patient to remain in a normal temperature and not to go out in the extreme heat. Avoid massaging treated area for at least 6 hours. This is something which I always tell my patients. The idea is to avoid any post-injection complication, because I've seen that, patients taking botulinum toxin, going back home or not advised properly, so rubbing their eyes, the drug diffuses into levator muscle, because orbicularis and levator are not very far away. So drug going into levator leads to post-injection ptosis. Sometimes the drug can penetrate posteriorly into the lateral rectus muscle particularly, and then you may have cases of diplopia. So all these problems can be avoided if you just ask the patient to not rub the eyelids for at least 6 hours to be on the safe side. And I even go to the extent of telling them to not lie down flat on the bed for at least 4 hours, because that can also lead to migration of the drug posteriorly, and we've given it close to the lash line in the orbicularis there. And so the patient, if it lies down immediately, then the drug can migrate posteriorly into the levator aponeurosis. Many patients, especially if you are if the patients are taking botulinum toxin for a cosmetic reason, you need to tell them, they will ask you about when can they apply their cosmetics and other skincare products. So tell them they can apply those from the next day onwards. However, if there is any other procedure planned like chemical peel or laser, then botulinum toxin and any other procedure should be separated at least 2 weeks apart. Also, another point is that ask the patient to avoid any strenuous physical activity for the next 6 hours post-injection, because again, once the patient is moving and sort of exercising, jumping, there are more chances of drug diffusing to unwanted muscles. So these are some practical tips about